Is 9:03 and we are live.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the pre-agenda meeting of May 11th, 2022. Madam Clerk, can you call the roll?
Yes, Mayor Betty Resch.
Here.
Vice Mayor Christopher McVoy.
Here.
Commissioner Sarah Maliga.
Present.
Commissioner Kimberly Stokes.
Here.
Commissioner Reynaldo Diaz.
Here.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Let's do it again this week. Is there any burning issue that anybody has that they want to bring up? Hearing none, I'll bring one up. I didn't give you too much time, but we'll get to it. Yeah, I had mentioned before, and I think we all pretty much had a consensus that with a rental unit, whether it's commercial or residential, that an owner who gets the rental license should have a person named and verified that can be on site within 24 hours. So that we don't have a situation where we hear complaints about a guy that, somebody owns something in Dubuque, Iowa. They own apartments, they have no interest and it's hard to get in touch with somebody. So I think it would help code. I think it would bring up the level of, responsibility for all of us, for the tenants and the landlords. And I was thinking if we had a situation where we put it in the ordinance and not only have the person name it, but have the person that they name verify that they are that person. So you don't just put a name on a piece of paper. And then if that person changes, that they need to notify us as part of the notification process. And I would like to get that on an agenda as an ordinance sooner rather than later. There's no reason to wait.
I think that's
agree.
I think that's fine. I don't know that I would wait 24 hours. I think it could be a lot shorter response time.
Well, I mean, sometimes, and again, it's then, from the time of the report to code, I guess, or, we'd have to, Glenn would get that, 20 within like 12, we can talk about the number of hours, but the procedure would be that, I guess, if there's a code call or a call from a tenant with a complaint, Glenn, can you work on that?
And are you thinking that maybe I'm thinking of a slightly different situation? I'm thinking, maybe wherever the unit is, somebody is, having 15 people in a very noisy party at 2 a.m.
Right. Yeah.
12 or 24 hours is still quite a while for the neighbors that are affected by it. And I think it is reasonable to ask the landlord, the owner, to be responsible. Because one of the things I've seen over the years is, nothing wrong with people renting. It's a needed way to provide housing, but it does tend to turn over. So if you own next to a rental, you develop a relationship with tenant 1, they're gone in 6 months. Now you got to start all over again with tenant 2. And this happens repeatedly. And really the relation needs to be with the owner or the owner's rep who has some stability, and that they have to do a certain amount of policing of the place and say, look, tenants, this is what you can do, this is what you can't.
Right. Also,
I have a question. I was just thinking about listening to this. I agree. I want to make sure that we're being reasonable in everything that we ask. So I'm wondering if there's 2 different parts to this. One where it's 24 hours that you need to have somebody on site or something like that. I'm trying to figure out what are we trying to address, which issues, what makes the most sense. If there's like a plumbing issue, a leak, you need to be there. You need to be fixing that like soon. If it's a noise complaint, I think a phone, I don't know that. Is the owner expected to like drive to the property and handle the noise complaint, or
if the owner's close by and available? And Chris, you have a good point. As you were speaking, I was thinking, we're getting quite the Airbnb is coming up and it's a big issue, but I am getting a lot of, not a lot, but some emails about, consistent parties at like especially large homes where they rent them for parties. What Chris was talking about, if it's like if a short amount of time, then somebody could go and knock on the door, go, hey, you're violating the rules of this house, stop it. And not have to go to the police, but that there's a representative there who's responsible for making sure that the rules are followed. I think what Chris says had some merit. And Kim, yeah, I mean, if I have a couple rentals, if somebody calls me, I'm there. But if I lived away, I wouldn't. So I think we have to have the equivalent of the home. You know, we all complain about out of state, out of area landlords. So I think if they have somebody standing in for them here on call, that's kind of what the point that I'm making here. And maybe
Yeah,
time should be
I think
shorter. Ronaldo?
I think that's a great point. Like Commissioner Stokes, I can foresee maybe like different levels, right? Or two different categories. One, in communication within a certain amount of time for certain issues, or for, things like flooding and major issues like that, or quality of life things in person, whether it's, owner or management company, whatever the case may be. I think seems to be like, there seems to be a bit of a theme in some of the stuff we've been proposing recently between this vacancy tax and which I do have an update on, and also I really like the idea that Commissioner Malega mentioned at the last meeting about the city issued rental signs. And I think they all kind of fall into the same theme of, renters and tenants having a better voice or a more protected voice on their quality of life.
Mm-hmm. So it's Glenn, do we have consensus to have Glenn, we all can speak with him specifically about what they think and let him figure out what he thinks is the best way to do it. And then come back to us like on the, June 1st and 2nd agendas.
Yeah, if you want to get this done.
Yeah, I think the sooner the better.
Without saying more, the sooner the better. Okay, so that was sort of on my mind a lot.
And then this is for residential rentals, right?
And commercial.
And commercial.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's the same thing. I mean, yeah. So, and I think we should all just, think about it and connect with Glenn at some point to, if there's something you feel is that he can come back to us. If he comes back to us like with a city attorney's report, let's just get it done.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I think the more teeth we have and
Yeah.
the more laws that are on the books, we're protecting our renters, and we can't do anything with pricing.
And
But
our landlords.
right. No,
Because
I hear you, but I mean, the bottom line is that it's gotta be equitable across the
Right.
board.
Of
And right
course.
now, it's definitely not.
Right, and I just, and this goes along with, somewhere there's a person who has enough time on their hands and enough knowledge to write a handbook for tenants and a handbook for landlords. So this would be the kind of thing that would go into both of the things and say, listen, if there's a problem, your landlord has to give you the name of his representative. Let's not always involve the city. Like the name of the person should be furnished to the tenants.
Good idea.
Yeah, because then they can just call up, and then if there's a problem, they say, so, all right, I think we've got that wrapped up. We're, Ronaldo, you said you had some updates on taxing vacant properties.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to hearing what Glenn has as well. But after the last meeting, I had discussed with him if he would want or appreciate bringing in some outside help or an outside perspective to help draft a vacancy tax, because like I had mentioned, I had done some research on it, and so have friends of mine and whatnot. So I reached out to a former boss and mentor of mine, Robert Hartzell, and his staff to see what their thoughts are on it, and they offered to what they're working on right now is they're writing a memo, and that will include a potential draft ordinance to consider, and they should have that to us by next week.
We're not paying for that.
Nope.
Okay, because they do exist out there, and it's all public record, so you could.
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff is a bit of copy and paste.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of the interesting thing. If we pull this off, it's not going to be a lot of copy and paste. There's not a whole lot of examples across the US that have done this sort of thing.
Well, yeah, there are some, they do exist. That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, we appreciate the help. We appreciate the
Okay.
help. Great. So that's good. Glenn, did you have anything to add to that? I see your hand.
Yeah, just again, I appreciate Commissioner Diaz. We're going to be talking later today. We briefly talked at the end of the commission meeting. It doesn't look like in Florida we can do a tax, but we may be able to have some type of a fee, registration fee. You know, we already have a vacant registry ordinance for vacant properties. You know, after the foreclosure crisis of a decade ago, banks and lenders, you know, have to provide a list of kind of that same contact person for vacant properties. So I kind of envisioning what we just talked about a minute ago, almost an expansion of that ordinance. And then we also have an ordinance where I think downtown you have to have window coverings
Right.
on you know, vacant buildings. So I'm looking forward to, you know, talking to Mr. Hartzell and Commissioner Diaz and trying to figure out a creative way to put this in place.
Yeah, some towns I know ask or get, you know, grant permission for like high school students to put art in the windows, you know, things like that, just to make it look livelier rather than a boarded up window. So thank you, Ronaldo, for doing that, and Glenn for going in on it. And what's next? Sarah, do you have anything?
I don't.
Okay. Kim?
I don't have anything that's pressing, you know, things that are already on the works. But right now I feel like there's enough, enough of my plates are on little balancing sticks that I'm good to go.
Yeah. Kim?
I'm still very torn up about all of, you know, as we all are. I know we all are, about what's happening to the people who are just getting priced out and there's nowhere to go. I think there was an article that just came out. Florida is now the least affordable place.
Palm
to
Beach
live.
County, I think. Palm Beach County
And
specifically.
I would like us to officially, I know, I don't want to tie the two things up as recognizing the crisis that we're in by declaring that we are in the middle of a housing emergency, with that automatically means we're pursuing the rent stabilization. You don't have, doing one doesn't mean you have to do the other. I am seeing Miami-Dade declare it. I'm seeing Orange County declare it. I'm seeing places on the West Coast declare it. And it seems like Palm Beach County is largely silent. And, you know, when we did that, what we did with the extending to 60 days for the renters for the month to month, our county commissioners looked at what we did and said, maybe we should consider doing that.
I'm
And-
up here in Orange County, and I just saw a thing on TV about the commission up here is looking at a new approach towards tenant protection. It sounded an awfully lot like what we did.
Good, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, I would very much agree with Commissioner Stokes that I heard the same thing from TV folks that called me that said, you know, you're the only community that's stepped forward other than Miami-Dade to do this. And I also agree with the concept that we could declare an emergency, and that doesn't necessarily mean we're doing all the other steps, having referendums or whatnot, that we can think about separately. But I think it does serve some value to simply say, hey, because I'm hearing the same things from people that, you know, they're pretty heartrending stories of enormous rent increases, and, you know, nobody's salary has gone up with that. And nobody's in a position that they have 500 or 300.
No, I mean, there's no question that there's a crisis. My question is, you know, I mean, and I'm not against doing that, but I feel like, you know, these sort of sometimes empty, you know, like we promote things or we do a resolution supporting something, and it just becomes a declaration. But if there's consensus to do it, that's fine. But it doesn't really do anything.
you know what?
I think it highlights that
Perception. It's an optics and perception thing, when there's nothing wrong with that.
So, well, and it's putting in a foundation and the first step in case eventually we want to pursue a referendum and take those steps.
Correct.
But in the
Yeah,
meantime,
but we don't know the time frame. We don't know.
right.
if we
But
get
in
to that.
the meantime, it does show our dedication to this issue, and I think we've already taken the steps of moving towards this. But I think, for example, next on our radar should be a tenant bill of rights that we can adopt. And I think we've already taken
But I think
stuff.
we're-
We've already gotten that ball rolling, and we should, use
Technically, I mean, in the statutes, they do have rights. What's not happened is a handbook that says, here's your rights.
yeah,
They
exactly.
have rights. We
Right.
don't have to like reinvent the wheel. We can enlarge it and, make it more interesting, but, they do have rights, but, and probably legal aid would be a help with,
Right.
for us.
So I think by declaring the emergency, I think it does a few things. It allows our staff and everybody to know when we talk about, we want to get this literature together. This is a priority, right? Like we want, when we're making decisions about things, we're doing it with this lens that we are facing a crisis and we are going to see, I don't know what's going to happen to all of these people that are just not able to afford to live here, to buy food here. I don't know what's going to happen to our economy when all these people get pushed out and have no place to go. It is something when we're tourism's booming, but we don't have accommodations for the service people that are waiting on the tables, bussing the tables.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question. It's a nightmare. It's a
And
nightmare.
it needs to be
We're
recognized. And our
we're
governor,
frustrated because what can we do about it except do this? And
we
that's,
say it's an emergency, and we hope that our
That's what I'm
governor
saying,
stops
except-
messing around with these culture wars and takes this seriously. But he's not going to do it if we're all sitting here quiet about it. We have to make some noise. And I think,
I don't think anyone's disagreeing with you.
okay, well, so I know when we say, what does declaring emergency, we are limited in what we can do. We have a voice. That's what we
I'm just
have.
frustrated.
I'm frustrated. I know we're all frustrated, Betty. So we can acknowledge the situation that we're in. Let's acknowledge the reality of the situation that we're in. Do the little things that are in our control, like getting that pamphlet together, trying to connect people to the resources that are available, do what's in our control, but use our voice to say, this is a real situation. Stop messing around with Disney.
Do we have consensus to have Glenn look at the Miami and do that? Come back to us with a recommendation, maybe?
Yep. And to move toward a declaration of emergency, whatever the
That's what I-
procedure is to.
Yeah, but we're not going to the referendum yet, I don't think.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. I really think that I was very excited when Glenn said Belle Glade is looking at you guys. We had county commissioners looking at you guys, and we raise our voice, they raise their voice. Maybe someone at the state will hear us all.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, thank you. Mr. McVoy?
Yeah, we have a meeting coming up on the 23rd. I believe it's a workshop on short-term rentals, Airbnb, and I never remember the name of the other one. It starts with the V, vacation rental by owner. I think.
VRBO.
Yeah. And I have a couple of concerns with that. I'm very aware over a number of years that there are strong feelings both in favor of short-term rentals and against. My understanding is that they're already on the order of 600 or more of them in the city. So it's here. People have made investments in them. I'm very interested in us adopting clear and helpful rules that raise the likelihood of good actors doing it, operating these places, and address some of the potential concerns that I think many of us are aware of. Another concern of mine is the legal status and our legal exposure as a city. And it's way out of my legal knowledge and abilities, but my vague understanding is what our city, and this is true for all cities in the state, is my understanding anyhow, what our status on short-term rentals was prior to the state doing something in around 2011 is a very big deal. And I want to make sure that as we go into that workshop and in it well in advance of it, that we have a clear statement and the documentation of what was our situation.
Well, the ordinance, we could have the clerk bring up the, give us a copy of the ordinance before, I think it's 2011 that happened. Glenn, I see you moving around too. So no, I think that's a great idea because I'm getting I'm getting, emails about it. And I was thinking, well, where are we and what can we do? So it's exactly the question that we need to know walking into that workshop. I agree.
I have another question too to add on for that workshop. In my mind, there are also two separate types of short-term rentals. One is where you lease out the entire house. And one is where you lease out an ADU or one room in your house. And they're very different from what I've read as far as the impact on our housing market, because you have an owner that lives in a house and they just rent out one room. So you're not taking a whole house off the market. If any of that is going to play into the conversation of what is the effect on our housing market with this proliferation. So those are two separate things that I've read about in books that address how to keep cities affordable. And then also the whole having someone on site. If you are in a house and you're renting out one room to like a person, my dad does it up in Melbourne near you. You could have stayed with him, Betty.
Oh, good.
But he's so close to Orlando, he gets a lot of people that are just passing through for conferences, coming into for a hospital visit for 3 days that just need a room. You're not getting the party animals. You're not getting the noisy people. So they're two separate. I want to treat them as much as we can as two separate conversations.
If it's but see, here's the thing. You got to be careful because you're putting homesteads into jeopardy. If I'm homesteaded, I mean, there's nothing to say I can't rent out a room, but it's a fine line that you'd have to walk. I agree with you because people now are doubly, they're renting out rooms because everybody needs help to live. So a homeowner has never really had an issue with getting a roommate. If I own the house, I can always get which is really what they come under. Could be a short-term roommate, but you're right. It's not affecting the neighborhood. Because one of the arguments against Airbnbs is the transitional nature of them and that you lose that neighborhood feel because it's just people coming and going. But with somebody living in a house renting out rooms, it's very different. That person is there as the constant. So that's a good distinction to make. So staff, Carmen, Glenn, Melissa, can we get that? Can we just have that? Those ordinances. I think the ordinance about how many people can live in a house. There was this thing in the 60s and 70s where they didn't like communes. So they did like no more than 3 people or 4 people unrelated can live in a house. I'd like to look at that while we're looking at that. Just to see if we wanted, while we're talking about rental.
I'll find everything for you and make sure you have it.
Thank you very much.
And we need a clear statement of was there a prohibition in place or not? Because that seems to be a very deep legal.
That's what we're going to get. That's what we're going to get. And I think we should publish that publicly as well so that other people, the public can find out.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Chris.
So just to give you a little heads up on that, you certainly can require registration, for example. You can make sure that all the vacation rentals are registered in the city. Not that different than what the mayor and you all were talking about a while ago in terms of having an on-site person for tenants in general. You can require Airbnbs to have complete vacation rental registration form, pay a fee to the city. So there are things that we can do to regulate is maybe a little bit of a strong word, but at least monitor and maybe a little bit regulate the rentals. You can have them provide you with sketches and things like that of the floor plan.
A question. If they are registering as a short-term rental and we have an ordinance, I think right now you can't have a rental less than 6 months. I mean, everyone's violating it, but is it 6 months now, I think?
I think so.
William has comments.
Good morning, Mr. Waters.
Mayor, it's actually 60 days.
60, no less than 60 days.
Right.
Oh, okay. That's pretty short. All right, then that's interesting. Okay. So yeah, if we can find out what we had and what we can do, that would be great.
I just wanted to point out there are places, and I think even including in Florida, that require things like, having to live in a newly acquired property for a certain amount of time before, turning it.
That's-
And
A lot of
And-
condos have that. A lot of condos have that. And I almost bought a condo recently. And then I found out that you couldn't rent it for a year. I needed a lot of work, but I couldn't carry it for a year. It was going to be a long-term rental, as reasonably priced as I could. But I couldn't do it because I couldn't rent it for a year. So I mean, that's pretty restrictive for government to come in and say that. But again, Glenn will give us the final on that. And you're talking to Glenn this afternoon, so ask him about it. Okay. Airbnbs are coming up. The parking thing is coming up. It was interesting. I apologize for the sound issues this week with the workshop. I think we just sent them back to be more, my understanding is from what I could hear is that we sort of rejected the idea of the table traffic calming thing on Federal Highway.
We were very enthusiastic about vertical deflections. We were a lot more enthusiastic about
visual.
I guess you call them visual horizontal deflections.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't see that she was thrilled with our response, but oh well.
According to Jamie, she is very, Leslie Weatherall, I think was her name. Yeah. She is very dedicated to listening.
Good.
FDOT I mentioned to Jamie after the meeting that I had been, and I can't remember how I got onto it, but early in the year, I was on some sort of, I think, climate related call. And some of the presenters were from FDOT, and they were saying actually quite similar things to what we were saying, because they're passive ways that don't require signalization. And they had some other reasons. So parts of FDOT are very vision zero, very complete streets oriented, and other parts are much more just move more cars as quickly as possible. And it's different philosophies, and it has different effects on neighborhoods.
Good. Thank you. Carmen, do you have anything burning that you'd like to talk to us about?
Just want to let you know that you did receive an email the other day regarding the Gulfstream project. You received information that the meeting will be held at our June 7th meeting, the first reading public hearing. And so notices are being sent out. That would be at 6 p.m. That is our regular meeting date. So we have dedicated that meeting just for that. And the public hearing will be located at the casino instead of our chambers. And that we just want to make sure that we have proper room for those who wish to attend.
Great.
And so you have received also the economic impact analysis. So please review it. That is our final draft. So before we publish, we want to get your comments, and please submit it. I have received some, and so I'm looking to hear from some of you, some others, to see if we need to address some of your questions, and we're working with the team to do so.
Okay, thank you. Glenn, anything?
No, I think gave me enough stuff to do, right?
Yeah, really. Nothing more from Glenn. How about any of the other, we have a lot of departments sitting in, and I wonder if there's anything from anybody that.
I'm sorry, Mary, let me ask one thing. You all know that we've been reaching out for potential third-party negotiators. So I'll I know I have some meetings with some of you today. I'll reach out to all of you, run some names by you, and then talk about the process. I'm kind of presuming you're going to want to have a public interview of the top 2 or 3 people. If I'm wrong, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going forward on that assumption.
I don't know that we need to, I just am worried about the timing of everything.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we need to, I think we can all give you input and maybe trust your judgment on choosing the one that.
Thank you. I think so too.
Yeah, or conceivably, I agree that the timing, I think we're behind schedule rather than ahead. So sooner is better, but obviously a good choice also makes a difference. I would be fine with phone interviews individually, or, you know, we give you some criteria and you,
Well,
Glenn,
Chris, I mean, do you not trust Carmen and Glenn to do that with, I mean, I don't know.
I trust them completely. I'm good with whoever staff chooses.
Yeah.
that's an unfortunate way to phrase the question. I think it's very important that we have certain criteria on it. And as long as we're clear what those criteria are, maybe we're fine.
Which would be-
I think it's important that the commission has a buy-in on whoever this person is. I wouldn't be comfortable saying this is the person that we recommend. I'm not sure if Carmen would be either.
Oh, I totally agree.
Okay, so when
So,
when could we have that on the agenda?
Well, we were talking about that just as the meeting started. I mean, you know, next Thursday, May 19th is not a lot of notice, but if you want, we could try. Like I said, I will talk to each of you today, give you the 3 or 4 names of people I've been talking with. And then if I kind of sense that there's a consensus that 1 or 2 of the clear front runners, we can just schedule them to appear either by Zoom or in person on the 19th.
Guess what
That
I'm
works.
confused is you could tell me that it's Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. If I'm not in the law world or I'm not in the mediation world, how am I supposed to know who these people are unless I take time out to now Google research them and call anybody that they've worked before? I mean, that just,
I think it's, I know your point, I get your
Hang on,
points there, but I think it's also, you know, for us, looking at, you know, what experience do they have, you know, how many projects like this?
well, that's what I'm saying, but how are we gonna know that?
Well, we'll find out. They'll tell us that. That's
Yeah,
why.
I mean, I'll give you each a full overview on these individuals. And, you know, obviously we're trying to find people who meet some of this criteria. You know, finding this perfect person that says everything might be hard
Right, and objective.
and objective. So let me have these conversations with you all today. And if that works for everybody's schedule today or tomorrow, and then we could, you know, maybe schedule for the 19th, the top people to interview.
I guess
At the
I'm just
very
from a
least,
different
introduce.
mindset. I mean, I'm from a different mindset. I'm not an expert in everything. I don't pretend to be. Nor do I want to try to take the time to become one. From electric utility to law. You know, that is why we took the time and we really did the thought process to hire the right city manager. So when we give directive, in my opinion, I can know that you're working on the best and you've talked to all of us, so you know what our desires are to be able to make that decision. I mean, I understand where, you know, there are certain things where I believe that we should be at the table, but where we're trusting our attorney and our city manager, in my opinion, to bring somebody forward that you think is going to be the least bit biased and has the most expertise.
There's no harm in them bringing a couple names to us. There's no harm in that. And it also gives us, you know, I mean, it's an important decision. So, I mean, I would
But you're in the
okay with
legal
other-
world, so you kind of haven't, you know, you might be like, oh, I know this person, or I've heard of that one. You know,
May,
I'm
I
in
may.
the car business. I don't know any of them.
Glenn and I did have a brief conversation earlier, and he gave me a background of the three of the people he was thinking about at the time. I found it useful. I don't think I need to do a whole ton more than that, but so I think we can give input. I don't want to say we give no input. I think we just, you know, want to not, like, I think the public big process is too much, the public interview, and I think that's too much, but I certainly think we should be giving input to our city manager and city attorney.
So Commissioner Stokes, you kind of already had that snippet of who's on the could be list. You've already had that discussion.
Yeah, a preliminary one. And then I'm going to follow up with Glenn today to talk a little bit more in detail. At the time, he had reached out to some and to see who's interested, who's not. So I just want to get an update on where that stands. And then we'll talk about the pros and cons, and we'll kind of work through it together as an attorney and a city commissioner. And then I'll land on, like, this is who I think.
Okay, so what happens if we don't have a decisive vote? What if,
Right.
what if, you know, each one of us picks a different person?
Bring
then
it
do
to
we
the
leave it?
19th. It's simply just bring it as an agenda item to the 19th, and we can talk about it there. By that time, hopefully we will all, I haven't spoken with Glenn yet about this. So, you know, I don't know if anybody else has. So why don't we, you know, do what we need to do in the next few days, and on the 19th, we've got a week, and have it just, you know, it could be on new business, it could be on the consent agenda, or, you know, whatever. You just bring it to the public so that and also the public knows who we have. And, you know, that agenda item would have, you know, Bob Smith, here's a, you know, what's his experience, Sally Jones, what's her experience, so that people know what we're basic
Right.
stuff.
And
I would
Madam
like
Mayor,
for us to be hopefully in a position to move forward with a vote, an official vote that night, because I think the
Right.
following week, we're all supposed to be meeting with
Absolutely.
developers.
Absolutely. No, absolutely.
Okay.
No, I don't think there's any reason why we couldn't anyway. So, all right,
And
thank you.
a good point. That's another specific of the time sensitivity of this stuff that I think it would be wise if we can come to a consensus, get somebody on board that if we're going to meet with the developer individually, I would think it'd be very useful for the negotiator to be at those meetings and be able to get a sense of what we're all, what our issues and concerns are, if any, or whatever there are. I think that would be helpful. So the sooner the better on this.
And on that note, I think the path that we're proceeding on is that there's two separate Gulfstream issues. There's obviously the land use issue, and then there's the economic package. I'm trying really hard to keep them separate, since June 7th is your land use. So the meetings with the guilds next week that any of you are going to be at, their land use lawyer will be there, I'll be there, and part of the reason I'm going to be there is to make sure we focus on land use and not economics.
Okay.
And then hopefully, depending on what happens on June 7th, June 7th doesn't pass, there's no reason to get to economics. If June 7th does pass, then we'll have the conversations, hopefully another round of conversation with the guilds on the economics. And by that point, your third party negotiator could be involved in preparing for and doing that. And whether you have that economic decision on the same day as second reading of land use, or whether it's even the meeting after that,
Right.
Because they're two very big decisions and they're very different decisions. So I'm trying
Right.
not to muddy the waters and keep them separate.
I think that's smart. Thank you. Lots going on. We have and budget starting, so we got to get up to speed on budget.
that's right. And Madam Mayor, you all can access, and I can send it to you directly, but we have placed it on the, it has been published and there is backup in our notice for that meeting on the 24th. So, but today I can send you all directly the backup. I know that will have the general budget and the capital improvement program.
What are we? Thank you. From the charrette, from the downtown. What are we going to get as backup for that workshop, if anything? I don't know.
Good morning. There is a brief summary that's coming from staff that explains how we got to where we are. The flyer is in the backup, and then a short overview from Dana Little, who is a consultant who carried out the charrette, is included in the packet. He is working on a presentation. It is not finished because remember the charrette just ended last week. Yeah. And so if we get a presentation, it will be forwarded to you as soon as we receive it. It's likely not to be received until the Tuesday before the meeting.
Okay, and the meeting's Wednesday.
And Madam Mayor, in addition to that, we are also going to send you the building assessments of the properties of L&M. Yeah, so we have that assessment, but we're putting together a short summary because we have details of those assessments. So we want to give you a good short summary or quick review, overview, and then also the details that accompanies that.
This is such an area of import for our citizens. Thank you for putting that together.
I have a quick question. When will the economic impact study be released to the public in regards to the Gulfstream?
We're hoping within a week. But that's what we're trying to get your feedback on the final draft and questions, address some of those questions, tweak where we need to tweak, verify where we need to verify, and then we will publish.
Okay, thank you.
And that's going to be, that's going to be the numbers of what the city has sort of promised and what their asks and our offers.
That's correct. And its impact to the community.
Okay. It was emailed to us a couple nights ago. It is like 28 pages.
Right.
So
I'll get right on it.
If you're going to print, I recommend not printing in color.
Right. It's a lot of colors.
Geez. Well, I'm pretty primitive up here. I don't have a printer, but I can read it.
It's quite readable.
Glad to hear it. Okay, so we've been working quite hard, all of us. I mean, there's so many things on the plate. I feel like we're kind of working on what we're working on instead of bringing up more new things.
Yeah, we have enough on our plate, very
We do.
important things too, so we're moving along.
Okay, so, great. So anybody have anything else that they want to talk about while we're here? We don't have to stay till 10 if we don't have to.
I agree.
I have depositions starting at 10 o'clock.
Come on, Kim, aren't you having fun?
Oh, no, this is great. I'm like, I would love to squeeze in a shower before my next meeting. Would be
That would
great.
be
Go.
Yeah, these meetings I find very helpful because, I'll be driving, go, oh, I want to say to Kim, oh, wouldn't that be great? But you can't. So this is our one shot. So thank you very much, everybody, for doing it.
One thing that,
Yes, Chris?
sorry, I seem to have got something in my.
He couldn't help himself. He could not help himself.
No, it was that I had it on my desk here and I just saw it again.
Okay.
I sent an article to the city manager. I haven't looked to see if it's already been forwarded on, asking her to forward to everybody. It's from the real estate part of the business section of the New York Times in the last couple of weeks, I guess. Hotels with net zero ambitions that a number of them in the US, some of them outside of the US, London, I think was one, that are taking really seriously climate change and recognizing that buildings are a significant part of addressing climate change and emissions. And sort of an example that would be very consistent with our flavor as a city, that we as a coastal city and a coastal state are taking this stuff seriously. And so hopefully have a look at that. I copied and pasted it so that it's readable and you don't have to worry about paywalls and all that stuff. So hopefully that'll come from the city manager.
Yes, sir. I'll send it this morning. I just noticed it.
All right.
Thank you.
Looks like the Tea Party was a success. It looks like the party for the race was a success. Thank you,
For
everybody.
the Derby thing?
Yep.
Yep.
No,
Yep.
I saw pictures on Facebook. All right.
Yeah, we're both successful.
Yep. So anybody else have anything before we end this? And I get ready for my depositions?
I didn't
Just
enjoy your vacation.
No,
Yeah.
I don't have any.
Thank you, Chris. All right, so have a great day, everybody. See you Tuesday at the high school graduation.
If staff stay on the link, please.
I will not be at the graduation. I will be out of town. So I will ask you guys to give my congratulations to all the graduates and please explain why I'm not there. I did tell Dr. Epps, but he may not remember.
Will you be at the Wednesday and Thursday meetings?
I will be at the 23rd and 24th.
That's,
And I will be via Zoom on the 19th.
but not the 18th.
No, ma'am, it's just a presentation, so I'll be able to watch it on YouTube.
Okay, yeah, okay. All right, have a great day, everybody. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
guys.
You too. Thank
Thank
you.
you.